If I can lose my son, any dad in this country can lose their son tomorrow, because I was a loved, adored and respected daddy. CAFCASS have never met me, ever. Yet they have produced a 45-paragraph report based on this conversation. She lied and said that she video interviewed me for 1 hour, 54 minutes, when actually she video interviewed me for less than 4 minutes. My only contact with CAFCASS since April the 15th, 2022 to today, there was a film in 2019, and this was the title of that film. It was a film about Ted Bundy, the serial killer. And I said, when I saw the title of this film, I thought it was about the family court system. It was called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. On the 15th of April 2022, I was running £1 million businesses. I was so destroyed that I lost them businesses within 5 months that have been running 10 years. Yet now I'm overwhelmed with, where's my son?
Ladies and gentlemen, mums and dads, children of appropriate ages, welcome to the Family Court Voice. Our special guest and speaker this week is somebody you will probably know from TikTok, who's been sharing his version of events, his story. Welcome to the Family Court Podcast. It's Deano.
We've been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. You are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink.
Hello, Deano. How are you?
Good evening. How are you? All right?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Good evening to anyone that watches. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. We've been actually talking about this for quite a while. So just for our viewers at home, Deano is also one of the inspirations behind the podcast. When it was in idea phase, we met on the meetup with Michael Love, Deadbeat Dad Bod in London, if you remember. And I started asking you all these questions. Say, hey, Deano, I've got this idea. I'm thinking about this. And you've been giving me a lot of advice on how to get set up and how to approach things, and encouraged me to get back onto social media, things to say, things not to say. And even today, you've been giving me some hints and tips on how to grow the brand new channel. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate those words. I know you said it earlier, and I know you mean it. And that means a lot. Thanks a lot.
I do mean it. And it's not just that, Deano. It's other things where every now and again, I just think to myself, do you know what? I just need to have a chat with somebody. So I'll give you a call and we'll have a bit of a natter. So I really appreciate that. And I know that
I hope that all the dads understand that ring me, that's how it is. You just ring me when you're ready. And if we're here, I'm here.
And it's the same thing. It goes two ways, Deano. So I really do appreciate that. As I mentioned before with the podcast, we have 3 themes that we like to talk about. First theme is raising awareness. So I'd like to talk about what you do to raise awareness within the community. I'd like to talk about your TikTok channel. I'd like to talk about Deano's version. I'd like to talk about your new page that you've got set up. I'd like to talk about your story. I'd also like to discuss and ask what your thoughts are on your experience within the family court. So covering judges, paperwork, we've spoken about quite a lot. Offline, your experience with the child agencies and your child, obviously. Then the third is going to be around mental health. So, talking about how things have affected you as an individual and also what you do for others. I know that you spend a lot of time talking and helping others through this as well. So, Deano, the floor is yours. Where would you like to start? What would you like to talk about?
You ask me a question, we'll go from there, my friend.
So let's start with the TikTok. Tell us about the story on TikTok.
Well, positive story about TikTok. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'd never been on TikTok. And after the court case in December 2023, it becomes January 2024. And I thought, you know what, Deano? I was so broken. You got no idea, because the final court case was December the 13th. And I hadn't seen my son at that point for 1.5 years already. And then they just tell me to write my son a letter once a month. But in January, I thought, you know what? The problem was everyone knew us on Facebook. We all had our friends because since my son was born, that's when I started the Facebook. The Facebook was never about me. It was about my son and how I've had a son and how beautiful and amazing. My son was called Boyce.
Mhm.
He's a character. He's named after Boise in Only Fools and Horses. He's the only Boyce in the UK. And everyone said to me when we named him, "Oh, you can't call him Boyce." I said, "We can call him Boyce. It's a great name." And let me tell you, no one ever forgets his name. And I missed him so much. And I went on TikTok because I kept hearing TikTok. And when I went on it, to me, it was like reading the Sun newspaper. It's just so easy.
Mhm.
You just flick through the channels. And I thought, this is fantastically easy. It's better than any app. And I don't really do any social media at the time. It was just Facebook at the time. And then I thought, actually, this is a platform that you're talking to the world rather than just your friends on Facebook.
Mhm.
And then I thought, what I don't want to do with all my beautiful friends that have loved and adored me and Boyce for 10 years, I don't want to suddenly bring a load of negativity into their life. As in, obviously, they'd heard that Boyce had not been seen since 15th April 22. But I didn't want to then go into all the story, and because I thought they're just my mates. They love me, man. And although, let me assure you, many of them still message me today, I decided to look at that platform and I started Deano's version. And I thought, right, let's just tell a story. And I'm going to tell any dad out there, it was the best thing I ever did.
Mhm.
Because in your body is a year and a half of missing your children, the stresses of family court, the heartbreak, the complete confusion on the way that you're handled in family court. Yeah, I mean, it's totally ridiculous. And I thought, I'll just start a story on chapter 1. Best thing I ever did, because people, I've now done 148 chapters.
Mhm.
All of that has come out of my body and is there forever. Meaning, if anyone ever says to me, "Oh, so why did she do that?" I say, "I'll go and look at chapter 36.
Mhm.
I've never got to repeat myself. This is mind numbing for any dad. So what eventually happens is they don't speak about it. Right. So you don't want to bore everybody with your story. And more important, you don't want to, if someone says, "What happened at court?" you don't want to go into 25 minutes of explanation. So by getting it into a chapter and putting it up there, it was fantastic for me because I was basically speaking to a telephone, uploading a chapter, and it's there. And then I noticed I wasn't alone.
Mhm.
I noticed very quickly I wasn't alone. In fact, chapter after chapter after chapter, I realized how broken this system is. I realized within 10 chapters how many dads were going through this. It was actually amazing to me because, one, like every other dad out there, when you've been an amazing dad, 10 years of being an amazing dad, when your son's taken and you're dealing with family court, you believe everything's going to be all right. You've only got to show how much you love your son and how fantastic his life's been and how loved his mum's been, and no allegations, no police history. He was in 7 years of the same school. His grades are amazing. Cricket captain, football captain, loved and adored. Everything was amazing. All I've got to show, it's never even been looked at through family court.
They don't seem interested in looking back at historical data or looking back at evidence that basically verifies everything that you're trying to say.
Well, I think the prime example of that is if you imagine my son was taken on the 15th of April 2022. Right. So for 10 years, he's had a beautiful life. Up to the 14th of April, I'm getting normal WhatsApp messages off the mum as there had been for 10 years, showed in court. There was no arguments. It was total love. Was never read in family court. No interest, because they have only worked from the day my son was taken, the 15th of April 2022. Everything from CAFCASS is written about Boyce's future, what happens from now. The past is irrelevant. In other words, there is no way for a dad to show how much he loved his son. There is no way for me to show how much I looked after the mother. I'll give you another example of that. When she applied for the non-molestation order, which is the first part of the blueprint, as people understand, I produced everyone in my life. This is neighbours, friends, school teachers, headmasters, everyone that ever knew us was so shocked that Boise had gone. They first of all get a non-molestation order issued, then they have, they go through financial control and coercion, then where the solicitors take it on. But they always get a non-molestation order. It's like the first thing to do.
Called the Blueprint of Hate.
Right. I was so broken by receiving that non-molestation order because now not only has my son been taken, the mother, who's been my best friend,
Mhm.
is now making allegations all simply to move my son to Worcester, have a new life, live in her dead mum and dad's house. She didn't need me anymore. But the point was this. It was just shocking. And the problem is, the system works from the 15th of April 2022 onwards. To double clarify that, the headmaster of my son's school and the school governor of my son's school, private school, turned up at Worcester Court on the final court case to speak for me as a father. Not only did they know me as a father, our kids played in the same football team Saturday, Sunday. This was like a massive, amazing parents and kids thing. And they turned up at court to speak on my behalf. The headmaster stood up and said, "Hi there, I'm here to speak on behalf of Mr. Dean. This is what the judge said. Thanks for coming. Unfortunately, your evidence will be about prior to the 15th of April 2022, after, and therefore your evidence won't be needed. Thanks for coming." He was dismissed in 30 seconds. The school governor stood up, said, "I'm here to speak for this father," and the judge says, "Your evidence will be prior to the 15th of April 2023, your evidence won't be needed." So how can a daddy ever prove how much he loved his son? Another prime example of that is on the non-molestation order. I created 500 pages of evidence, love, Facebook memories of 10 years, the Father's Day gifts, the cards, 500 pages, filed, turned up at court. They said, "Just so you know, Mr. Dean, 500 pages is far too many pages. Can you filter it down to 32 pages for us?" So I've now got to show all that love in only 32 pages. So I minimise everything there, filed it in court. I then turn up to court. I represent myself as a daddy. 13 days later, her solicitor says, "Mr. Dean filed this paperwork a day late. It should have been filed on the 2nd of July and he filed it on the 3rd of July. So we want the court to dismiss all this evidence on the basis of no evidence." I said, "Hang on a minute. I live in London. There's been a postal strike. I've driven to Worcester and filed this personally 13 days ago. Everything so far you filed a day before anything." The court went away and said, "We're accepting the non-molestation is issued due to no defect." You tell me. Do you know how disgusted I was at that moment as a dad going into family court, believing that all I had to show was my love for my son? There's been no allegations against me and my son. Why am I not seeing my son? Let's also look on the 15th of April when I was arrested from her allegation of smashing through a door. The bail conditions were not for me not to speak to the mother, normal child contact. In other words, since the 15th of April, I should have been speaking to my son anyway. But she just refused any phone call, never took a phone call for anybody. The police then pleaded with her to ring me, to get Boyce to ring me. The police are pleading with her, despite the bail conditions saying normal child contact. And after 6 months, the police said to me, "Sorry, we can't force her to do anything. You'll have to go to family court."
So they're basically directing you into the family courts as well, the police.
What I'm trying to say is my original arrest on the 15th of April for smashing through a door, I was arrested. She then takes my son to Worcester. Rather than just simply tell me she wants to move my son to her dead mum and dad's house in Worcester, she just does it so she doesn't have to have that conversation. What people don't understand is when people suffer from anxiety, it's a flight or flee. She's either going to have that conversation, but she didn't. She had me arrested, done that move. But the point is this, that allegation has nothing to do with my son. So the bail conditions were for me not to contact her. In other words, I get a third party to contact her, but normal child contact. So in other words, Boyce should just be ringing me all the time. I've never heard from him since that day. And the point I'm making is the bail condition meant nothing. The police, in the end, accepted that if she just wants to not answer and never get Boyce to ring you, we can't force her to do that. So you're going to have to go down family court. In other words, what was the point of the bail condition?
So when you say false allegations, are you saying that you didn't smash through the door?
Okay, so let's just talk about the door. One, it's not did I smash through the door. This has been a court, remember? Okay. A year later, I'm in criminal court. The allegation is a criminal allegation. Did I smash through the door? Okay. I simply have, what you don't understand is my son and mum at that time were living in my flat that I lived in 8 years because her house was being refurbished. It's my flat. I have a key. I simply turned up, opened the door, walked in, had a cup of tea. And while I'm having a cup of tea, talking to my son and mother, the police turn up and I'm arrested. Now, Martine didn't ring the police when I was there. So why are the police at my door? Why am I being arrested? Right. She had actually rung the police half an hour before I arrived. And in court, a year later, when asked, she didn't ring the police when I was in the building. She rang the police half an hour before. Why did you ring the police? She said, bearing in mind I was going round there to move them to their new house that had just been refurbished with the lads in the vans. She said, I didn't want an argument. The guy in court said to her, but Mr. Dean wasn't coming round for an argument. He was coming round to move you to your new home that's just been refurbished. She said, I didn't want an argument. He said, police don't ring the police because they don't want an argument. So I can only assume the argument you're referring to would be you would have to have told Mr. Dean at that moment that you're not going to move to the new house and you're going to take his son to Worcester. Rather than have that conversation, you then made up an allegation when the police arrived at the property after Mr. Dean that he'd smashed through the door.
Mm-hmm.
She accepted that. So let's look at the evidence. I smashed through a door. What are you imagining? Tell me what you're imagining.
So by the way that it's described, is there was a door that was closed, or either she's maybe carrying on the other side and you're aggressively trying to smash through the door to get to her to maybe cause her harm?
Okay, the allegation was I smashed through a door.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you picturing of the door?
Broken door.
Okay. So you would have thought the evidence would have been photos of that door.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The evidence provided in court was a 5mm ring, like that.
Mm-hmm.
I produced evidence because when I was released from the cells, the first thing I did was go back to my flat on police advice because they'd already told me Martine had gone somewhere else. I already knew she'd gone to her mum and dad's. It was difficult to work out. First thing I did, as soon as I got home, was take images of that door, perfect door. But I also asked for police body cam evidence, which showed a perfect door. And best of all, the police had a witness, which is why it went to court. I'm sitting in court thinking, who's a witness to something that never happened? But the problem is the police never do a proper job in these events. They just do anything to charge. This was their own witness when questioned. Did you hear Mr. Dean pull up outside? Yes, I did, because his flat overlooked the car park. Good. Did you hear Mr. Dean enter the downstairs door because it makes noise? Yes, I did. Good. Did you hear Mr. Dean open the front door? No, I can't really hear him opening the door. Okay. Did you hear him speaking downstairs with his son and his mum? Yeah, I can hear them speaking. Lovely. So at what point did you hear him smash through the door? This was the police witness. No, I never heard him do that. You never heard anyone smashing through a door? No. So we've now got police body cam images showing a perfect door. The police's own witness never even hearing anyone smashing through a door. And my images of a perfect door. Against her image of a ring like that, and her solicitor said that when I pushed through the door, the security lock, that bit fell off it.
Mm-hmm.
A security lock? This is a 3-lock. You would need 5 men to smash through it. And what annoyed me more was I'm arrested in front of my son for an allegation of smashing through a door when the door was perfect all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned it to the police. But what happens is she's now made that allegation, so they separate us. I go downstairs. They said, well, unfortunately, she's made an allegation, smashed through a door. I have to arrest you. And I was arrested, put in a cell for the rest of the day.
Based on a false allegation, even though that there was
completely
evidence.
False.
There was no evidence.
This was my son's mum's option. She knows I'm coming round there because the night before she's WhatsApped me, proved in evidence, the house is all ready and we're looking forward to move in. Right. I spoke to the owners of that house, who are actually the Wetherspoons number 2, who went to my son's private school. We knew them. It's their home. They'd refurbished it for us because they loved us. And, then the very next day, at that moment I arrived, she's got to say to me, Deano, I'm not going to move to that house. I'm going to take boys to my mum and dad's house because they've passed away. You see, the other thing people don't understand is her mum passed away in 2020. Her father passed away in March 2022. She never told me. She never told me her father died. I'm her best friend. I see her every day, speak to her every day. We go to everything together. Yet she never told me her father died. So I believe that in March 2022, she decided that she was never going to move to that new house. But she also suffered from anxiety. I think she waited and waited, got to that date, then it was either tell me that she's taking boys to, which I admitted in court would have been a very difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than that, at that moment, when the police arrived, she just simply made an allegation, I smashed through a door. She never had to have that conversation. She then took my son from that day. So let's look at that allegation. This is the reality. Even if I had smashed through the door, let's just say that was a fact. On the 16th of April, she withdrew my son from his private school by email in the middle of half term. It was already prepared. By the 1st of May, my son had already been reschooled in Worcester without my knowledge. In other words, my son was removed from his private school 7 years by email. Now, earlier I told you the headmaster and the school governor come to court to speak for me. So let's look at that email. She sent a 1-line email. Boys is now removed from this school due to a child issue. There was no child issue. The allegation was nothing to do with my child. She simply lied in an email. Now, that email arrived at the school. This has been explained to me by the school. I didn't know about that email. This was in the middle of half term. My son doesn't go back to school till the 1st of May. So at that moment, I'm believing everything's fine. Boys will be back at school on the 1st of May. We'll go from there. If you look up removing your son from school, I need to be informed. Yeah. But the school had never seen an email like that before. So this has been explained to me by the school governor. They then took advice on that email, and the school was advised not to tell the father. So no one told me nothing. On the 1st of May, I'm ringing my son's school to make sure he's at school, right? Because I haven't heard from him for 15 days. I get this, hello, can someone ring you back? Which was weird to me because in the whole 7 years, no one had ever said that to me. No one rang me back. So the next day I rang back again on the 2nd of May to check my son was at school. The headmaster will ring you later. And I was thinking to myself, what is going on? And on the 3rd of May, I spoke to the headmaster and he informed me that boys had been removed from the school on the 16th of April via email. I then received a non-molestation order on the 4th. So you can imagine the turmoil my brain was in.
Yeah. It's interesting that you've spoken and mentioned the schools here, because I think it's something that a lot of parents who are outside of this bubble don't actually realize, that the parent who wants to cause conflict will utilize the school as well. I've had that experience where, without even knowing, I've had the school tell me that they've had letters saying that I'm not allowed to collect them from school. I'm not allowed to pick them up. I'm a danger to them before anything's even happened.
We was a private school. Everyone knew everybody, mates, Saturdays, Sundays, and all the parties. Yeah. So there was none of that in my case. So my son's mum could never say there was a history. It was pure love. She simply sent that email. Yeah, if you look up on the internet, can somebody remove your child from school without your knowledge? They will say no, right? No. Both parents have to be aware of a child being removed. Of course, it makes sense, yeah? Otherwise, parents could just be taking kids out everywhere, right? If you look online, can my child be reschooled? No. Both parents, you have to sign a form. Total nonsense. My son was removed on the 16th by email, schooled on the 1st of May. No one's ever asked any questions. I ring up the schooling. What's going on with my son? I'm not aware of anything. Oh, you got a data protection. We can't do anything. It's done by the No one cares. Once the deed is done, legal or not, what are you going to do about it? That's basically what you get. Well, it's been done now.
So then what was your next step there?
So my son is now in a school on the 1st of May. I know nothing about.
Just for clarity, you said that your son was relocated to Worcester. How far away is that from you?
3 hours.
3 hours drive.
Yeah. So now I'm aware on the 3rd of May that my son is no longer at that school that he's been at 7 years. Let's stop there. I have no idea where my son is, but I know he's in Worcester. I know where her mum and dad lives. So I then look at all them local schools near that area. Remember, I can't ring her. She's ignored me for 18 days. I haven't heard from my son at this point. I then ring all the local schools that he could be at if he was living at his mum. I'm a dad that spent £172,000 on my son's education at this point. I've been to everything he's ever been in his life, and yet now I'm cut out like I don't exist. I have a right, a parental right to know what's going on with my son's education. I ring a school. This is no joke. It's like they were waiting for my call. It's like someone said to them, if the dad rings, this is a nightmare. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I ring this school. Hi there. Yeah, hi there. I'm inquiring about my son. Give his name. Oh, yeah. Hold on 1 second. Which I thought, blimey. Most people say, what's his name? She knew straight away. Yeah? 1 second. I then get put through to the headmistress. Right? This is exactly what I'm. Hello? Yeah, hi. I'm the father. Oh, yeah, hi. Yeah. To be honest, we're not going to get involved in all this. I was sorry, I'm just ringing up. Voice is dad. Can you email us? Bye. And put the phone down. Okay. I rung that school back, obviously. Get put through to the headmistress. Yeah, can you email us? When they're taking emails, goodbye. All I've done is say I'm his dad. 2 minutes later, and this is a very important point, Worcester police ring me. Hi there, yeah. First thing he said on a recorded call, just so you know, you haven't done anything wrong. It's a very important line to remember. I said, I know, I'm just ringing my son's school. He goes, yeah, just so you know, can you email that school? They just don't want to get involved. So now I'm at a position where I can't ring that school. So I email that school, a beautiful email. In fact, I emailed that school 10 beautiful emails. In fact, I emailed that school 15 beautiful emails, and I never got a response. Because my son was like 9.5, 10, remember, he's now going to start senior school. But this is the best bit. He's now got to start a senior school. I have no idea where my son's going, what his mum's doing. So I do the same function of senior schools in September. I speak to the headmaster of a school. You're going to love this. He says, just so you know, I interviewed your son. I said, did you? I was so happy to find the school. I know where my son's going to be at least. Do you know how much effort it's like so negative energy. But when you find the school, you're like, I got the school. This is no conversation. This is exactly how the conversation went. The headmaster said, hello, Miss Dean. Yeah, just so you know, I interviewed your son and the mother, beautiful young man. And yeah, he's starting the school on the 3rd of September. Now, this is a very full dad's watching. I said to him, just out of interest, you've had a boy turn up from nowhere, with a lady turn up from nowhere, and they're now reschooling a boy. Does no one ask about the dads? He said, I understand how you talk, and I'm going to be honest with you. We don't have to ask about the dads. If a lady turns up here with a child, and we're happy to have that child, we don't need to mention anything, talk about dads in any way at all, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I then said to him, now you know there's a dad involved in his life that's been massively involved in his life every day for 10 years. What happens now? Do you know what he said to me? You're welcome to this school. As a father, you're welcome to support your son in everything he does at this school. And I thought, this is amazing. Because I then knew, worst, I can go and see my son play football, go and watch my son, tell him I love him and cuddle him. That was on the 1st of September. On the 2nd of September, that headmaster rang me and said, I'm just letting you know, Mr. Dean, I spoke to your son's mother today just to let her know we had the conversation and you're welcome at the school, and she's withdrawn your son from this school and she's now going to homeschool him. And that's what she's done. And that's the reality. Then CAFCASS got involved from that moment. And the important thing about the conversation I had with the headmistress is in the first paragraph of the CAFCASS report, the CAFCASS wrote this: Mr. Dean contacted Boyce's new school. The headmistress said she's the most horrible woman in the world. That's what the CAFCASS report says. That's a totally fictitious line that never happened. And I'll prove it never happened, because remember, the copper said, you haven't done anything wrong. There was no allegation that was ever said. No mention of it. Yet a year later, in a CAFCASS report, apparently I called that headmistress the most horrible woman in the world. And that's how CAFCASS started off their report. And my point, it's like, again, you've done nothing wrong but love your child, and they write things like that.
So how did CAFCASS get involved? Was it because you were already in the court process and a Section 7 was ordered?
So she's got the non-molestation order, right? We're now at September the 3rd. I've just found out. And I've got a moment, at this moment, right, you've got to also remember that the non-molestation order was also like 6 months you can't contact the mother, yeah? So that would have run out sort of May, June, July, August, October, let's say, yeah? And at that point, I know I couldn't contact her, but I should be hearing from my son. So, yeah, I got to admit, at that moment, I thought, I've still never actually heard of any human about this case. What's going on? She's got the non-molestation. What happens now? Then I got an email from CAFCASS. Dear Mr. Dean, I'm the CAFCASS officer in your case. And I've got to be honest, when I got that email, I was so happy. Because at the end of the letter, it said, if you would like to ever talk to us, I'm your contact, then ring this number. I rang her within a minute of getting that email, because I understand that she's now the person who I need to talk to.
It's a trick though, isn't it? I've been there myself. You think to yourself,
not only was it
finally somebody is looking at this.
Correct. And let me tell you, that phone call has been used in a lie by CAFCASS as what I said in court. CAFCASS have never met me, ever. Yet they have produced a 45-paragraph report based on this conversation. This was just me introducing myself, explaining the situation, feeling like I'm a dad that can talk to someone. She's withheld everything that she could possibly do. Never met me and created a 45-page report, yet in court, she lied and said that she video interviewed me for 1 hour, 54 minutes, when actually she video interviewed me for less than 4 minutes. My only contact with CAFCASS since April the 15th, 2022 to today is a 4-minute video interview. I have data requested a copy of that interview for 2 years. I've got nothing but blanks from CAFCASS. In fact, CAFCASS sent me a letter saying that if I continue to contact them, they'll inform the police.
But surely there's the Freedom of Information Act, right, where you're allowed access to all of your information that's recorded with regards to you and your children.
Correct. Now, you try and get a copy of that recording. They know that recording doesn't exist. I already know it doesn't exist. And if they showed that 4-minute interview, you see, my arguments to all this is, do you remember like the nurses that kill the babies?
Yep.
The reason that they're found out is that they're investigated and that they're checked.
Mm-hmm.
To any dad watching, when you get a CAFCASS officer, this is fact. That CAFCASS officer is never checked by nobody.
Why do you think
are
that
God.
is? It's a question that I always
There's
ask
no
myself.
staff. There's no one to check nothing. No one's going to check anything. But this is my point. How do we now know that within CAFCASS there isn't 10 or 20 ladies that enjoy stealing babies out of dad's life? If no one's checking them, they are God. They can say and do anything. Like in my case, CAFCASS have lied blatantly. On my channel, I actually recorded the CAFCASS officer without her knowledge. I told her at the end. And I simply rung her, and everyone was quite shocked she answered the phone, more shocked that she spoke to me for 4 minutes. And I simply said to her, "You've never met me. You never met my son's school. You never spoke to my family. Nothing. Yet you've created a 45-paragraph report. Why did you never meet me?" Do you know what she said to me on video call? "Well, you're outside my geographical location." I said, "What, an hour? 3 hours away? You simply just couldn't get into your car and drive to meet a daddy?" "No, you're outside my geographical location." Yet in court, they videoed me an hour and 54 minutes, apparently. Total lies. CAFCASS are a disgrace. And I can honestly tell you, find me a positive story about CAFCASS.
I will check my file, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be able to find one. I think the only thing that I've been finding from all the parents and dads that I've been talking to, including myself, is pretty much exactly what you've described. It's the same pattern of behavior, and it's just systemic abuse is what it is. It's the same thing over and over again. I mean, for me personally, they asked me one question and I answered that question, and she said, "Okay, thank you very much." I was like, "Oh, okay. Maybe it's gone well." Same thing as you. A little while later, I get an 18-page document, 18-page report saying that she felt threatened, or I tried to show her things that she didn't ask for, and she found that controlling, and wondered whether that was indicative of the mother's experience. When all I'd done is she'd asked me a question, she'd basically presented me with the allegations, and I said, "No, that's not true. Let me show you some evidence that shows it's not true." And all of a sudden that gets twisted and turned into something sinister. So it's the same thing. It's the same story that I'm hearing from so many different dads.
I'll give you another example. So if we look at the 4-minute interview and the 2 questions.
You had 2 questions.
4-minute interview, 2 questions. Let me tell you what them questions were. "Hello, Mr. Dean. Can you tell me about your relationship with the mother?"
Mm-hmm.
My answer: "This was Boyce's mother. She was an amazing mother. She's been my best friend for 10 years. And she was a great mother. And she's always been on a pedestal because she's Boyce's mum. I've always looked after her so well because she's Boyce's mum."
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been applauded as a dad for looking after Martine. We'd actually split 7 years before, but remained the best parents, the best friends, and we worked on the, just be amazing parents. But to everyone else, we were married. Everyone just thought we were married because everything was like we were married. And it was amazing, really. And she said, "Well," I said, "So she was always on a pedestal. She was Boyce's mum." So what her answer was to that? She went, "Well, I can understand how that could cause her an issue." I said, "I beg your pardon?" But no, it's just that often women on a pedestal can see that as a problem. Okay, second question. "I see you were in court in 2005 for a parking ticket." I said, "Yeah, that was 7 years before my son was born, yeah." So yeah, it went to court, yeah. I said, "Okay, thanks." "Well, thanks very much."
Yeah, sounds about right.
Now, if you watch any videos, any dad that's got any sort of past, if it's your court case about a parking ticket, a court case, that will be held against you, regardless of how amazing you've been as a father.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was 15 years before your son was taken or daughter was taken or anything, it will be brought up and used as a weapon against you. In that criminal court case, I'll give you another example of that. In that criminal court case, of course, I was found not guilty. So a year after that allegation, I'm not guilty. I haven't done anything. Not guilty. Yet CAFCASS, to this day, still use that allegation as a reason to show her fear.
Sorry, which allegation? The
one that's smashing through a door.
That didn't happen. That was
correct.
proved.
So I'm found not guilty of that. But what I'm trying to say is CAFCASS have never put in the report, "Oh, by the way, that allegation he was found not guilty of, it was completely made up."
No.
They've never put that.
I get that.
They've always put,
Yeah.
"Mr. Dean was allegated of this."
Mm-hmm.
They never mention it was completely false.
Yep.
And never have.
They have a way of doing that. So with mine, I had a lot of false allegations, everything from I'm a drug addict to I've been abusive and things like that. And I've produced all the evidence. It went to a fact finding and they were all thrown out. with evidence, basically proving that, in short, they're all false allegations. Despite that, and again, this was one of the things that I wanted to show the CAFCASS officer. So look, here's the allegations that you're asking me about. Here's the evidence that have been shown in court, and it's found to be false, right? And none of that is taken into consideration at all, despite the mother being found as making false allegations, weaponizing the children, having vindictive behavior, and causing abuse to me. They don't write that. They just literally just write the allegations, followed by the phrase, "We find this concerning." And I said to my CAFCASS officer, I said, all you've done is regurgitate false allegations that you know is already false because it's been seen in court with evidence, and you still write them in your report at the start of every paragraph, followed by, "We find this concerning." Why have you not once mentioned what the result of that investigation is when I've shown you all of the evidence? All they write is, "You've tried to show us evidence we didn't ask for. We find this abusive."
Well,
It's
if you look
exactly
at
what
the
you're
CAFCASS,
talking about.
if you look at the CAFCASS report, if you imagine that first paragraph that mentions that head teacher saying that I called her the most horrible woman in the world, graph 35 paragraph later, CAFCASS officer writes, bearing in mind they've never met me, my son's been at the same school. In the CAFCASS report, she's written, "We have decided not to contact Boyce's school as we would find the information irrelevant." So they don't want to contact the school that he's been at 7 years and get good stuff, but they'll take one made-up sentence from a teacher I've never met and write it in the CAFCASS report to blacken me. That's how they work.
Exactly.
It's impossible to describe if you've never been through it. I think the closest I can get to it is, I mean, by the way, my other channel, Version D, is now having all the content, just so you know. And that's where I put all my content now, because Deano's channel was that story. And when I got to the last chapter on Deano's version, I thought, right, that's where it is. And right now, that last chapter is where I am. I have no idea where my son is in the UK. I have no idea where he's at school. I have no idea where he lives, and no one cares. I made the application to court that everyone told me to, C100, C4s, and I got a 5-line response from the court the other day saying, just write your son a letter once a month with no end date.
So hang on, you put in your C100 and you didn't even have a hearing? They didn't even accept the application?
Nope.
You just got an email back.
5-line email back saying, thanks for your application, which cost 700 quid, by the way. I had to fill out two. I filled out one that said, where is my son? So I need a C100. And they said, I need to write my son a letter once a month, and that's it. No end date. In my application, this is what I wrote. My father had a stroke, my son's granddad, last year. He could have died. Luckily, he didn't die. My son should be aware that his granddad's had a stroke. He saw him every week for 10 years. If something did happen to my dad, how would my son know? What if something happens to me? Would my son be told? What if something happens to my son's mother? What happens to my son? Why, as a father, for 3 years have I not had any information about my son's education? All of those fears I put into my application, none of them responded to. They just told me to carry on writing my son a letter once a month with no end date, as in it's going to end in next year, and no one has to reply to me. And I'm sending it to a PO box.
And have you tried sending a letter?
I've set up 2 PO boxes, sent PO boxes letters. When you're not having to get a response, it breaks your heart. Because I know, if she's willing to steal my son, she ain't going to give him any of them letters.
So you've at least tried to send a letter, but you've had no response whatsoever.
How am I going to get a response? The only way I'm going to get a response, my son is now 13. As far as I know, he's on no social media, got no phone. What do I do? Just endlessly send letters to a PO?
And that's the only solution that you've been given?
It's the only solution you're allowed. Now, don't you not think that all part of me just wants to go and see my son? I'll just go and see my son. Do you know how bad I'd look if that happened? Do you know how bad the system would turn that against me?
You'd be villainized.
There you go. So you try and do it correctly, you get no support, no help, no response, no light at the end of the tunnel. And then they wonder why dads just say, I'm just going to go and see, and it all kicks off.
I'll tell you exactly what would happen if you tried to find him. You would be cited as being aggressive, stalking.
Absolutely.
You'd be arrested.
How many dads do you hear say, if anyone took my kid, I'd go and do this? That's what we all want to do.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you do that, the system is going to kill you. You'll never see your kids again. You'll be seen as a liability, a risk, aggressive, Scary. And all you want to do is go and see your child. Remember, I've never had an allegation made about my son. Yet I haven't seen my son for 3 years, 6 months. Worse, nor has anybody that ever knew him. My question to anyone that questions anything is, why? What have they done wrong?
So, question now, is there a court order in place as we stand restricting you from access to your child, or do you have equal parenting rights?
No. There's a court order in place. The court order issued in December 2023 was that I can write my son a letter once a month. Due to the mother's fear, she made an application of fear. No evidence, no history, nothing. She has based the fear on the allegation of me smashing through a door that never happened. In the CAFCASS report, it writes she's now nervous, the car's pulling up outside. And the event never happened, yet now she's claiming fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, the court order was write my son a letter once a month. Okay, in December.
Does it specify that you are not allowed contact with your son? Does
Directly
it have
or
any...
indirectly. No direct or indirect contact.
No direct or indirect contact.
Correct.
And was that due to safeguarding concerns?
Correct. Based on the CAFCASS report, which recommended that I write my son a letter once a month.
With no evidence?
No. In the CAFCASS report, there is no mention of my son's life prior to the 15th of April 2022.
Mm-hmm.
In a 45-page report, they've never met me. There is no mention of my son's life prior to the 15th of April 2022. It's all what the mother said, what she's trying to do, what Boyce needs to do, what he's achieving, how he is. I'll give you the first example. As a dad, imagine reading this. On the 15th of April 2022, my son was amazing. Amazing. A year and a half later, this is CAFCASS' first line. Boyce now suffers with a stutter. Broke my heart. Boyce now sees a psychotherapist due to his concerns and anxieties. He never had a stutter when I was in his life for 10 years. And he certainly never needed to see a psychotherapist about no worry. Yet it's written as if I'm to blame somehow.
Yeah.
Because in that same paragraph, they mention his new school and the teacher saying that I'm the worst dad in the world. Also says this, and let me just tell you what else I got that CAFCASS officer to admit on that phone call that's on my channel. She has specified all along that she only ever spoke to Boyce, not the mother. She had, in court, I only ever go there. She's been to that property 5 times, never met me. In her report, I said to her, on the phone, recorded call on my channel, I said, you said that you only ever spoke to Boyce. She said, that's correct, yes. I said, all right. Because in your report, you wrote in paragraph 1, after mentioning Boyce's stutter, after the psychotherapist, after the head mistress that I've never met saying I call you the most horrible word, you then mentioned the following. Boyce is described as hating his father.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'll tell you what it doesn't say. It doesn't say Boyce says he hates his father. In that fall, by saying someone described it, who described that to you? Because that didn't come from Boyce's mouth, did it? And she went completely silent and terminated my call.
More false reporting, isn't it?
It's just twisting words. And what I don't understand is, you see, my argument here is, when I question that woman in court, and let me tell all dads, when you question that CAFCASS report, you get 10 minutes in court. The first question I asked that CAFCASS lady in court was this: is there a conflict of interest here? Are you my son's mother's best friend? She said no. I said, are you related to her? She said no. I said, because this CAFCASS report is written as if you're her best mate and you've never met me. And said to her, I have many questions about this CAFCASS report. And the very first question I'm going to ask you is, in here, you've written that you video interviewed me for 1 hour and 54 minutes. We both know in court today, you video interviewed me for 4 minutes. The only other time you ever spoke to me was on that original call where I called you, responding to the email, and told you what had been going on.
Mm-hmm.
She said no. She then spent 8 minutes explaining how she got the information, the 1 hour, 54 minutes. 2 minutes in, remember, I've only got 10 minutes. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, can I go on to the next question? This was the judge. Can you not interfere, Mr. Dean? I think I've only got 10 minutes. This lady's just talking. You know, when they're just saying nothing.
Yeah, let me guess, was it stock answers that sounded like it was
There was no answer.
ChatGPT?
She's responding to one question about the hour and 54. After 7 minutes, the judge says, thank you. Well, just so you know, that's your time of questioning the CAFCASS report, Mr. Dean. Fantastically answered, by the way. Well done. Well done. Okay, that's it. That broke my heart and destroyed my soul.
I think it's important. And again, the themes that we talk about on this channel was also mental health. And that's something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I remember going up for the meetup in London, and we spoke about this offline a couple of times, right? And I was really anxious and nervous about going up there. I was going up by myself. I didn't know anyone that was going there. I'd only known Michael from TikTok and seeing videos and things like that. So I was panicking the day before, the morning of, thinking to myself, what if I turn up there and I go into myself? Meaning that sometimes you feel like you've been hit over the head with a baseball bat, and you can't speak, or you can't function, or you can't think. And I thought to myself, what if I go into that, where I just, start staring into space, or, all becomes too much? And I went along there, and luckily I managed to meet a couple of really friendly, nice people that were engaging and, hey, tell us your story a little bit. So I managed to have some conversation with some people that made me feel better. But then I remember looking around, and there were dads there that were looking exactly how I knew that I was close to falling into. The ones that were just staring at the floor, sitting on the wall, the ones that were staring into space, looking shell-shocked, the ones that were standing there like zombies. And I'll never forget that. But what I also won't forget is that I remember seeing you going round to every person and making sure that they were all right. And I was thinking to myself, I hope he comes over here and says hello to us. And you did. You made your way around everybody and spoke to everyone and made everyone feel comfortable. You came to me and made me feel good about what I was doing, and made me, feel better about myself for turning up and making that effort. So I really, really appreciate that, Deano. Really
Oh, a
appreciate
little
that.
lump to my throat that did, by the way, because I remember that day so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember how many broken dads there were.
Mm-hmm.
Completely paralyzed. It's incredible and impossible to describe how a man with his heart and soul ripped out his body even got to London.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to London. And my point to them was, this is the hard bit. You got here.
Mm-hmm.
You're now here. What do you need to talk about, man? My God. And they realised that they were in people that genuinely cared. And of course, a lot of them realised they weren't alone.
Same story. Everyone that you're talking to, exactly the same story.
They are paralysed. I remember meeting a guy. He was standing like this.
Mm-hmm.
Are you all right, mate? And he looked at me and he went, you all right? I went, yeah, I'm all right. You all right? He said, wow, mate, I don't know where to start. He was so lost.
Mm-hmm.
2 dads come over. Suddenly he was surrounded. He had like 7 dads all talking to him. And then I walk away. And what I love about that is I didn't need to be there anymore. All I've done is open the door for someone to hear him. And then the other people come over, and suddenly he was in this amazing place. Come over to me at the end and give me a cuddle, and still messages me today.
Mm-hmm.
And I love things like that. And I love hearing that help you as well, because I'm a great believer that if everyone's comfortable, it's great. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, you definitely brought a positive vibe to that group, and you made
Well, we're there
people
for a
feel welcome.
negative reason, but we're not there to be negative. I've never, ever in any way through my channel slated my son's mother in any way, because to me, she was a fantastic mother.
So I phone you every now and again, whether it's just to have a chat with somebody that understands, or whether it's to ask advice on how do I go about approaching the child agencies? What do I do? How do I post this TikTok video without getting a knock on the door from the police? So you've given me a lot of advice. You've given me a lot of support, and you still do. And, I'm sure that I'm still going to phone you and ask you questions. Do you get that a
Remember,
lot?
the new channel is version D, VERSIONDE. The original channel with the story of my son, for anyone that wants to go and watch that story, is Deano's version, DEANOS version.
Mm-hmm.
But all the new content goes on version D now, because I tell you why I did that. That channel ended perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And TikTok never supported that channel. They could never verify my identity.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in the world for a year of dealing with bots. And let me tell you about TikTok. It's all good when it's going well. But when you're trying to get something sorted, you might as well talk to the cone over there, because you go into bot world.
Mm-hmm.
So for a year, I was trying to verify my identity. They never helped me. So despite that channel getting 200 million views, never ever helped me in any way. I started a second channel, used the same identity, and they verified me immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So now the channel can build and grow. And at least if I put a little bit of effort and help into that, then TikTok have to award that effort. And that's the way I see it. Plus, it's a little bit more positive. I haven't always got to do stuff on my son, because when the dad does it all the time, it can be a negative as well. Yeah, because you're always trying to find a positive in a negative situation. Whereas now I do all different things on that channel, and then I bring in the story as well now and again, or what can we do about it, or some things that have happened. The example the other day, anyone that's listening, there was a dad the other day. He told me exactly what he said in family court. And he said it on the live call.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gave me the response to that by the judge on that day, which was shocking, because he was an organized, amazing, magic dad that was an organized man. He spoke well. He did it all correctly, how everyone tells you should do it. And yet the response from the judges broke his heart and destroyed his soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that's live on my channel. That's a real dad giving real example of the shocking situation of our family court system. To me, it's a pandemic across the country, yet no one's talking about it. It's like TV channels never talk about it, radio stations never talk about it, MPs never talk about it. It's completely avoided. And I wonder why.
Do you think a lot of the decisions in family court are predetermined?
To me, the court cases were for like a facade. There might as well not have been a court case. When I told you earlier that CAFCASS were gods,
Mm-hmm.
on the day of my court case, my final court case, that I'm being anxious for is listed for 6 hours. 9 o'clock start, 4 o'clock finish with a break in the middle, yeah? 6 hours. This is my day to get my son back into my life, yeah? Reality, the court case started at 1:45.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the delays from the day before. 1:45. They then went for lunch between 1 and 2, and my court case was over by 3:30. And the court did exactly what CAFCASS recommended. No questions asked. No one read anything I put in. Nothing was mentioned. It literally felt like I'd been scooted in on a scooter and scooted out. One done, one done. There was no detail.
It's like a conveyor belt, isn't it?
That's what I can describe it to people is, if you throw enough mud, it sticks. There are so many mums and wives and girlfriends throwing mud that all these dads are just getting thrown into the same bucket. God, there's another 50, another, oh, we'll get them processed, send your son a letter once a month. No one's looking at anything. And this is our children, not a parking ticket. This is my only son. I've missed now 3 years, 6 months of memories, love. I'll never get that back. How long is this going to last? When will I next see my gorgeous son? I tell you what, who knows? How does my son feel at night when he goes to bed?
This is part of the problem, isn't it, Deano? Is that you haven't even been given any sort of timeline.
Nothing.
No timeline whatsoever. So
nothing.
At least for some parents or some dads, they at least get told 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to the 18th birthday, something like that. There'll be at least something to think about, whereas you haven't had anything like that whatsoever.
Nothing. So why did I support myself and not get legal help? Let me just explain that very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
On the 15th of April 2022, I was running £1 million businesses. My expense for 10 years had been £11,000 a month to make sure my son had private school, his mum lived in a beautiful home. I paid every single bill and everything. And she got a couple of G a month, like to do her hair, makeup, because she's my son's mum. 11 grand a month, because I had my bills. So for 10 years, or let's say 7 years, because the first 3 or 4 we lived together anyway, 11,000 a month. Okay, stop there. Right. On the 15th of April, when my son was taken, my heart was taken out my body and my soul. Right. There's only one man running them businesses. Who was that person? Me. If you take a one-man banjo player and you take him out of the equation, the banjo don't play itself. I was so destroyed that I lost them businesses within 5 months that have been running 10 years because I was the only person in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yet now I'm overwhelmed with, where's my son? Why is this happening? Why is she doing this? I couldn't give a monkeys about my business phone ringing. Yeah? And this is what people write. Why didn't you get legal help? Right. I'm somebody that lives by this. I'm much more impressed by a man that turns up on a scooter that spends time with his children than a man that turns up in a Rolls Royce and don't. Okay? So everything I ever did was for my son and his mum. Right. For them 5 months, the day she left, I still got to pay for the houses, the bills. 5 months gone, that's 60G. Then I've got no income. People say, why didn't you get legal help? Because I walked in as solicitors, they wanted 7G up front. Today, dads are ringing me. I had a dad last week. He has now spent £18,000 in the last month. If you haven't got that money, you get no legal aid, no help. So now, not only have you lost your son, you've got molestation orders on you, you've lost your business, you're completely broken. And people say, why didn't you get legal advice? Where do you want me to get that 18G from? So you have no option but to do it yourself. Even after that court case, I'll give you another example how dads get no help at all. On December the 13th, I'm allowed to appeal that. I need some help. I need some legal help. I've just been battered by the system representing myself. I went to the Citizens Advice Bureau. I need a solicitor that helps dads, somebody that can appeal for me, talk on my behalf. The Citizens Advice Bureau gave me a list of 18 solicitors that can help dads. I would ring them. This is what you got. Yeah, hi, they're very busy at the moment. Can you email us? Thank you. You email them, and I never got a response from any 18. I then went back to the Citizen Advice. They gave me another 11. I emailed them all and never heard another word. In fact, next door to me, in my office, there's a family solicitor. When she moved in, the first thing I said to her was, oh, I've got a family situation going on at the moment. What's the thing with dads then? She went, oh, no, I don't really get involved with that. First thing she said. There is literally, I tell you what I do, and I let people call me because there's no support for anyone. If people know how broken I was, how destroyed I was, how much this has cocked everything's gone. I don't care because I'm unhurtable. When you've had your son taken out of your life, but your superpower is you're unhurtable. You right now are unhurtable. No one can ever hurt you as much as your children being taken out of your life. So I walk about like a superpower. It's where I get my energy from now. Because without that, it's a get busy living, get busy dying situation. Do you see my point? So I use that as energy for positivity.
So on that note, Deano, I like to end every podcast with what I'm calling the 3x3. So there are 3 questions about 3 different topics. The first questions are, what 3 things are you grateful for while we're on this positive note?
Wow, what a great question. I'm going to tell you the answer to that question. I've always been aware since I told my story there's people worse off than me. There are parents out there that are losing their children, have lost their children. There are people out there now fighting illnesses. There are people out there now dying. They're in a lot worse position than me. So I put a meter ruler up in my brain, and a meter was when I had my son, everything was amazing. Right now I'm at 30 centimeters, which means I'm a third up the ruler. Why? Because I'm ahead of the 0 to 10s who are dying or dead. I'm ahead of the 10 to 20s that have got illnesses or children have got illnesses. And I'm ahead of the people that are facing trials or going to prison. You have to find the positive. So my positive is, well, I'm still above 30. Right? So however horrendous my situation is, your situation is, or any dad's situation, always remember, there are people watching you that are in even worse situations. So be grateful for that. I also am very grateful that I'm healthy. Because without our health, nothing means anything. Nothing. I'm so grateful I'm healthy. It gives me the opportunity to have the option that maybe in life one day I'll cuddle, kiss and love my son again. Because if I was ill, maybe that chance wouldn't be here. And my third gratefulness is this. I live by this saying, and everyone should listen to this saying. It's very interesting because it goes back to always understanding there's people worse off than yourself. If every man in the world stood in a circle and every man in the world put their problems into the middle of that circle, most would be happy to go home with their own problems. And that's how I live my life one day at a time.
Sounds good, Deano. Really appreciate that. And I want to keep things positive, but at the same time, it also pains me that I have to justify or try and make sense of my own pain just by saying, well, and I hear this all the time, there are people in a lot worse positions than you. That's what you get told sometimes. And it doesn't make me feel any better. But I keep
Not meant
telling
to make
myself,
you feel better. I don't think of it like that. It's not to make you feel better. It's to put you into context.
Yeah.
You can't always feel sorry about me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of dads do their stories, but it's all feel sorry for me. The problem is there are thousands of us and people worse off than yourself. So it's just a context.
Yeah.
Not to be positive and forget it all, but just to understand that you'd rather be you right now than Steve Jobs.
It's the only thing that keeps you going sometimes, having that
Correct.
mindset and having that. So my second question, or my second 3 questions, is what 3 things are needed to reform family court?
Someone caring, Someone needs to care.
No one cares.
Someone needs to care. That is number one, right? Number one, you need somebody that can actually do anything, because you can talk about it. Look, I'll give you a reality. Look at what Deadbeat Dad Bod said on your own show. I watched it.
Yeah.
Despite the protest and despite all these petitions, have done nothing. Me and you could stand in Hyde Park tomorrow with 150,000 people. It's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, life carries on. Look at the thing in London a couple of weeks ago. Life just carries on. That is not the answer. The answer is family court and CAFCASS need to shut tomorrow. There then has to be a system, a common sense system. You can't just have allegations made from nowhere. But what people don't understand is it's not so much the allegation, it's the length of time that passes to get to a court case. I say to any dad now, if your kids get taken, minimum 3 years before you see them again. Not because you're doing anything wrong, because the system is so broken. People will never understand this. Court cases are so, you will never understand this. And when I talk about this needs to change, you wait 4 months for a court case. You've already now gone 4 months, 5 months, 6 months without seeing your kid, waiting for a court case. And a day before that court case, the other party adjourns it because they're ill.
Yeah. I was going to say 4 months if you're lucky.
This is the response you get. Oh, they've adjourned it. So don't wait. Well, so if that court case was July the 5th, right, you're all prepared for it. You've got to do all that preparation again. And then they'll say, oh, we'll do it in December the 10th. This is wrong.
It's a ploy. It's a ploy by the solicitors.
I'll give you another example. When people are going, you should not just have a mother getting legal aid. It's just completely ridiculous. The minute my son's mum made an allegation, she simply walked into this and she's never been heard from again. Yet I get all the paperwork. I have to deal with it all. No support, nothing. And then I'm expected to be a solicitor. And then they trip me up on things like filing it a day late. And no one cares.
Solicitors file things late all the time. All you do...
Well,
all they need to do is just say, hi, it's going to be late.
How ridiculous the court cases are. The allegation is she's scared, like fear. She then made an application, despite 10 years of no history, no police involvement, that she wants separate screens and separate entrances due to her fear. Prime example of the family court. They send me an email. We've had this application. What do you think about it? My response, this is absolutely, I'll be honest, this is what I wrote in my email. This is the most ridiculous application I've ever seen. There's no history of fear, no history of anything. Where's this fear coming from? There really should be no need for her to have separate entrances or separate at all. Just so you know. Love you. That's what I put. Do you know what the response I got from the court was to that? We could ask the judge not to give screens and separate entrances, but just so you know, this could be seen as controlling behaviour.
Controlling behaviour is not
which I'm already
masquerading
being accused
that you need
of.
a screen.
My God. And, you know, these are the things that need to improve, yeah? Everything. It is not even a system. There is no system. You've got CAFCASS and the courts. The courts do whatever CAFCASS say, and CAFCASS don't do their job. So as soon as you're in the system, you are knackered. That's how I see it. Now, just look at my channels. Look at my new channel, version D. Look at Deano's version. Tens of thousands of comments by dads going through it, parents of not seeing grandchildren, other people's friends going through it. Yet no one's mentioning it on the telly, MPs, nothing. Is so horrifically damaged. If I can lose my son, any dad in this country can lose their son tomorrow, because I was a loved, adored and respected daddy. There is not one person within 5 miles of where my son lives that won't tell you that. I was known. I was Boyce's daddy. Yeah? Boyce's daddy. And that's how everyone knows me. Yet the system has taken my heart, ripped my heart out, sold out, based on words on paper.
So that's one. What else needs to happen to reform, or would you say...
The legal aid system needs to change instantly.
So...
It's ridiculous.
Get rid of family courts as a whole, get rid of CAFCASS.
It just needs to be a whole new change. But more importantly, we can't just talk about it. Someone has to have the power to do it. And what you got to also remember, we live in a world where hundreds of us want change. There will be people that think it's amazing. So when it comes to family court, you've got to always remember, we all want change. We want it to start tomorrow. But there's going to be people, the system, the people in power that don't. That's where we are. You read all the chapters, it's all about money. People always say it's all about money, generating money. It's got nothing to do with the kids. We all know it's got nothing to do with the kids. So it can't be about money. This is our children. This is called family court. Yet all they're doing is taking children from dads every day. And then we have to go through contact centres to see them. This has to change. Do you understand, people? People don't understand this. People say, oh, it's all right, you got a contact centre. Right? That dad has to pay 200 odd quid every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. Then that dad is monitored. And worse, he can pay that money and then the mother can cancel it the day before saying she's ill anyway, which happens all the time. No one cares. Once it happens, that dad is left sitting in his car. What's he going to do about it? He's heartbroken. I'll destroy it again.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just left in a car. Where's he going to go? Who's he going to talk to?
So
needs change.
So why, I've got my own opinion on this, but I want to hear it from you. I think you've pretty much explained it already. But why are CAFCASS writing false reports? Why are the judges making the decisions that they're making? And why are the MPs and the government promoting this, ignoring the facts and reality?
So I think the
things?
perfect answer to that is Deadbeat Dadbot just did a video. He asked all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the response.
Mm-hmm.
He asked all the questions. What people don't understand is just to ask them questions, the effort he had to put in. Years of mental effort, forms to fill in. He eventually got it. And look at the response he got. He got no response. No response to any answer whatsoever. They had no right to say that. He hasn't got the right to ask that question. They aren't liable for this. They're not responsible for that. That's CAFCASS. It's like if you watched that programme the other day on Scotland Yard, that was one station across the whole country. And look how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
Now put that in context of family court and CAFCASS. It's exactly the same. Someone has to go undercover to expose it, to bring it to national attention. Because at the moment, CAFCASS can do whatever they want and hide behind phone numbers that don't exist, emails that are never responded to, and then they'll email you to say, please don't contact us or ring the police. What are you going to do then?
I think part of the problem as well is that the court workers, CAFCASS, social services, the judges are completely exempt from any decisions that they make.
Okay, again,
meaning they can't be held accountable.
Okay, but we also live in a world where people are scared of being blamed. Okay, so let's go back to my criminal court case. I'm found not guilty. Right. In January 2023 in criminal court, I'm found not guilty of the allegation of slamming through a door. At that moment, I thought, fantastic. I've proved the false allegation. So happy I can get my son in my life. 1 second later, her solicitor stands up and says, as Mr. Dean used evidence that we weren't aware of, i.e. images of the door, we are now allowed to make a statement on behalf of the mother. And the statement read that she is now living in fear, scared of windows and things of this. And can the court please bear in mind that if Mr. Dean is found not guilty today, please bear in mind that she's living in that fear. I looked at the judge, I said, you've just found me not guilty of the one allegation ever made, and now they're saying that. The judge went out, come back in, and she said, right, you're found not guilty today, Mr. Dean. But for preventative reasons only, so that's her reason, we're going to hand this case to family court. So now the criminal court handing my case to family court. But so that judge has no responsibility on her, the judge then says, and we'll give you a 2-year restraining order not to contact the mother or your son for preventative reasons only. In other words, if I walked out that courtroom and went and found my mum and son and done something wrong, that judge would be responsible. They would say, oh, you didn't do your job properly. So to cover that, they come up and put me a restraining order on me for 2 years. In other words, that judge has no responsibility to that at all. Nothing can go wrong. If I do it, I get blamed, not her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm given a 2-year restraining order. And from that date, CAFCASS have only ever used that. They've never said for preventative reasons, not because they didn't do anything wrong. It's never mentioned. The restraining order is then held against you. I.e., I made the application this year, and they've told me to carry on writing my son a letter once a year because no one wants the responsibility of saying, oh, don't worry, just go and see your son.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world we live in, I'm afraid. It's really scary.
It's not scary. It's outright criminal is what it is.
Totally criminal.
It's
An
criminal.
allegation has so much power. On my channel, version D, I did a video about 10 videos ago showing the power of an allegation these days. The guy, Deadbeat Dadbot, even told you it is like whoever makes the first allegation, that's the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world we live in. And if you're not expecting it, It comes out from nowhere. If someone has a premeditated plan you're not aware of, from out the blue, you get hit, and then from that moment, you're on your own. Dads are on their own. They get no support. The mums can go straight into a solicitor, get complete legal aid. And then they're in the blueprint. Don't worry, this is all we have to do. They already know what to do. You're a dad that hasn't got a clue what you're doing. And that's the system you're up against. That needs to change.
So my final set of 3 questions are, if you were to describe the family court process in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
There was a film in 2019, and this was the title of that film. It was a film about Ted Bundy, the serial killer. And I said, when I saw the title of this film, I thought it was about the family court system. It was called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. And that's what I would call the family court system.
Read that again. I need to hear that one more time.
The film was called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. And that was a film about Ted Bundy. The reality is that title is perfect for CAFCASS and the family court.
It was so perfect. I needed to hear that again, because when you're saying those things, describing exactly the situation, my opinion, my perspective, from what I've seen, it's horrible. It's not right. In my opinion, it's completely unlawful. It's criminal. And I will keep asking the question to as many people as I can, is why? What is the reasons for this? How is this happening? When's it going to change? And I know that I'm going to be in this endless loop for I don't know how many years, but I'm going to keep asking, I'm going to keep knocking on doors, and I'm going to keep talking to people. I'm going to keep meeting people like you, because I've got no other option, because I'm sure you feel the same, that I have a reminder every day, every single day. I've got a reminder. So I either dwell in that reminder every day, or I try and do something positive, which is this channel, which is talking to you.
You're not doing anything negative in any way at all. Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to believe in your head. You're not doing it for a negative reason. You're doing it because you're disgusting in a system that is extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile. And that's why you do it, mate.
Deano, thank you very much for the call today. Thank you very much for being the interview. And again, you know, you are one of the people that has inspired this channel, that has inspired this podcast. I hope that you're going to be a regular guest on the podcast. Again, I'll probably be phoning you over the next few weeks or couple of months saying, hey, Deano, what's next? You know, how do I do this?
Just for the people watching, we've actually tried to do this interview over the last 4 weeks, but there are days that I'm broken. And what dads do is they isolate from the world. And when you're in pain, you don't want to do this. So it's actually taken us 4 weeks. I didn't want everyone to think this is all roses and, you know, believe me, when I say dads are hurt, you're out the game hurt, yeah? And this is why many dads don't make it. And I truly understand why they don't. I just like to go into a little deal with the pain and come out positive. This is the way we do it. So thank you for having me. And thank you for bearing with me. And thanks for the patience and understanding.
No worries, Deano. No worries, Deano. So I like to end every podcast with the same message. And the message is, you're not alone. Stay strong.
Above all, stay alive. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Love you.